Hi guys, welcome back. Last lesson of the week, last lesson before Easter. So taking you a step further with your forms. Last lesson you created a save button and a message for that. Brilliant. We're going to take it a step further and do a little bit of validation using the form as well today. Nothing too complicated. We're going to keep it dead straightforward. So what I'd like you to do is the exercise which is on the screen now, which is to use the same database that we've been working on, which is a Driving School Chapter 4 database. Create a little form from the table lesson type. There's only 2 fields in that table, so it's only going to be a diddy little form. So you're going to add both fields. You're going to make it a columnar and save it with that name. Add a save button. Don't worry about all the other buttons. We're just going to do just the save button this time. And then I'd like you to practice adding the save message. If you can't remember how to do that, go back to the previous lesson and have a look. So if you want to pause the video just now and then restart it when you've created that form. Okay, so your form should look something like this, nice and simple, this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a bit of validation. We're going to make sure that that the lesson type field, there's something in there. So it's a presence check. And we're going to do it in here, in the form, rather than going back to the table. So we're going to do that one first. So if you follow me and see what we're going to do. So I'm going to click on the Save Record button in Design View, and then go over to the Property Sheet. And because you've created that save message, you've already got an embedded macro in there. So I'm going to click here on the ellipsis, the dot, 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 and the macro will open up. And you can see the bit of the macro that you've already done, which is save, and a message will appear. So I'm going to add another action, and that's going to be an if. So you just go and find if. So what I'm going to say is if, now you remember this expression which we've used before, is null. Now as soon as I type is, it gives me a drop down with all the possible options, and I want is null. So it's saying if something is null, if something is empty. The field that I want to make sure has got something in it is called lesson type. So if I start typing it in, again, it gives me a drop down and it gives me the exact phrase that I need to have. So this is the field which we're validating, lesson type. So I'm going to put that in. And then I'm going to close the round bracket. So it says is null. You opened a round bracket. It's put a square bracket in because it's a field name. So we're just going to close that normal roundy bracket. So now we're saying if that is empty, we want something to happen. And we want a message. So we're going to go back down to message box, and the message will be the lesson type field must be completed. All words to that effect. Type of message we want is a critical message. We want it to be you have to do this, and then we're going to put something in the title like that. Okay, so far we've got if it's empty, we're going to have a message. So I'm going to move that, all of that up to the top. So I'm going to move that with my little green arrow right to the very top. Right, so is null, lesson type, and a message box. So now, if it is empty, it's going to get a message, but we want to stop the macro. We'll stop all these actions happening until someone's typed in the lesson type. So we're going to put in here, stop all macros. And now the little bit of code reads, if the lesson type is empty, then put a message in which says lesson type field must be completed. And until that's done, we're going to stop this macro. All right, let's see if that's worked. So I'm going to click on save and close. And let's go and have a look at this form. Right, so I'm going to leave the lesson type empty, and I'm going to try and save the record. Let's see if this has worked. doing this live. Oh. Okay, brilliant. So we've got an error message, data is required. It tells me specifically what's missing. I click on OK, and the record hasn't saved. The macro has stopped. So now if I type in motorway driving, and now I try and save it, the record has been saved. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm back into design view, and I'm going to add a little bit more validation. And I'm going to say that I want the cost to always be greater than £20, for example. Okay, so we're going to click back on the Save button, and we're going to continue to edit the macro which is attached to that button. And we're going to go to the property sheet, event, and the ... ellipsis, and into that macro again. So we're happy with all this working, and we're going to add another if. And this time we're going to add it to the field which is called cost. It should come up with cost. Double click on that. Brilliant. And then I'm going to say if cost is less than 20. Right, before I do any more, I'm going to move that up to the right place. So I want to move it up so it's before the save. So now I've got if the lesson type is empty, then have a message box and stop all macros. Then if the cost field is less than 20, I want something to happen as well. So I want another message which says the cost must be greater than, and we're going to have that as a critical, and again we want that to stop everything. If they haven't got the right cost in there, we want to stop all macros again. So there's my stop all macros. So now it reads, if the lesson type is empty, then put up the message and stop all macros. Then, if the cost is less than 20, put a message box and stop all macros. And then save it. Once everything's right, and we've met all that criteria, then the record save, and then you get the message your record has saved. Right, let's see if this has worked. So again, I'm going to go back to the form, and I'm going to put in night drive. And I'm going to put it in as £19. I'm going to try and save that, fingers crossed. Yay. Okay, we got an error message, it must cost greater than 20. So if I put in 21. Oh, okay, I've already done this test, so let's try something else. Okay, wait. So night drive, motorway. And save that. My record has been saved. Do it just one more time to show you it works. So test, prep, lesson. And we're going to have £18. Nope. £21. So hopefully that will work. Yay. Okay, so there's some new skills for you to practice. So we're working on the save button, and we're using the event tab, and we've got this embedded macro, and I'd like you to go ahead and practice doing an is null type validation, and then a less than validation. And let's see if we can get validation working on a form. Have a go at that.